Coming up to down the Leipzig Loko, we've changed our tactic again, because we lost to two Bundesliga outfit Gruppe Fürth in the second round of the DFB Pokal. Hopefully we can turn it around against RB Leipzig in the derby. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 91 of the Leipzig Loko with Lokomotive Leipzig here on Sean Does FM. I hope you are doing well, and coming up today we take on RB Leipzig in our first Bundesliga derby of the season, our first Leipzig derby, and off the back of that we take on Lons in the Europa League. Having lost a couple of games so far, this one does look the toughest of the ones that we do have left in that competition, so looking forward to that coming up in today's episode with that new tactical style. And do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and have been enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But we've played two games off the back of our episode at the end of last week, where we did take on both Montpellier as well as Stuttgart with that vertical tiki-taka. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Off the back of that, we actually continued some pretty decent form in the month of October, picking up a quite nice win in the Bundesliga 3-0 over Fortuna Düsseldorf. First half goals there to Xerxes and Mastis, and then the latter capped it off with a couple of minutes left, so that was a very good win. But then I potentially rotated the team a little bit too much for that second round of the DFB Pokal, and we are out of the competition that we won last season off the back of a 1-0 defeat. They did score a goal with 14 minutes left. It was a frustrating goal to concede to from a set piece, but we did not perform very well at all in this game. I would still expect us with our rotation team these days to be beating teams from a division below us, because that's the sort of quality of team we would have been putting out in the Bundesliga a couple of seasons ago. So a result like that, and the fact that XG-wise we were actually the worst team in that game, even though before then our form had been quite good since going to the vertical tiki-taka, it did mean I spent a little bit of the weekend doing some tactic testing. And what I've come up with for today's episode is a direct counter-attack. This was one of the tactics that our assistant did recommend. It's the same formation with the same roles that we were using with that vertical tiki-taka in the episode at the end of last week. But hopefully, especially against a team like RB Leipzig, this might be something that does work against these big teams. It'll be interesting to see how it gets on against Lons in that second game, because that is a game between two teams, I think, who are pretty evenly matched. So we're going to see what the direct counter-attack can do in today's episode. Also, as you can see, quite a bit of rotation for this game as well. Lots of players on a heavy workload. And also our strikers at the moment are terribly out of form, so we may as well give young Carlos Pimentel a chance in this upcoming game. Also, injury to Leroy Sané still out for 5 to 8 weeks off the back of that last game at the end of last week. But it is a tough one. As I said, it's our first Leipzig derby of the season, and we take on RB. There you can see they are also going to be going with a 4-2-3-1, pretty similar looking team to what they put out last season, of course, with Dean Martin now up front for them, albeit these days Marco Rose is in charge, and they are storming away with the Bundesliga at the moment, albeit I say that only 2 points clear of Bayern Munich, but still they have had a very good start to this season, and we'll see how we can get on against a team who also got knocked out in that second round of the DFB Pokal, albeit by Hoffenheim, which is a little bit more respectable than what we put out against Gruppe Fürth. But hopefully this direct counter-attack against a team like this in particular, who are one of the big guns and doing quite well, can help us out, and we can get back on track. To be fair, our Bundesliga form of late, not actually that bad. We are all the way up into 9th on the Bundesliga table. A win here would see us get right on the verge of a European qualifying spot, which now might be quite important, seeing as we definitely cannot win the DFB Pokal, and also, of course, we are struggling just a little bit in the Europa League. As I said, quite a bit of rotation for this game. Our entire back four has been changed, so it is Watchin, Alte, Comedio, as well as Ryan, and also, as I said, Pimentel up top, because both Cuseta as well as Amadori are really struggling for form there. You can see their ratings. Hopefully Pimentel can do a decent job, and if he does, that would open the door for him to get a lot more first team football. That's something he has been after. Has the young Colombian still getting selected for the international team, so hopefully he can show why in this Leipzig derby, but it's going to be interesting. Obviously, not quite at full strength, but hopefully we can beat RB Leipzig here for the first time in a while, and also with their new manager Marco Rose, who is doing a pretty good job. We'll get through this pre-match interview. Obviously, not too happy with that game that we played before this one. Otherwise, we'd still be going with the vertical tiki-taka. Also, we've put Horvath on the bench for this one instead of Sicker, because he's a bit fresher. Hopefully can provide some good bench impact if we needed it. Right back there, you can see RB Leipzig, very similar to what we saw before on that club info page. And there you can see the table. They are on top. We are in ninth, but as I said, a win here at home would help us get right into that European fight, which could be quite important, because at the moment, we don't look like we're going to be doing that well in the Europa League. And of course, already out of the DFB Pokal, which we did win last season. But about 12 minutes into this game, RB Leipzig out on the front foot. We've done not much, but to be fair, with a counter-attacking system that's a bit more expected. I don't necessarily like the fact we're playing this way, but if it works, I guess we'll stick with it. Hopefully we'll see if that will be the case in today's episode. But first highlight comes up halfway through the first half. RB Leipzig on the attack off the back of us clearing it somewhat. They play a ball over the top there, and Martin does get in behind, but thankfully that shot does go over the crossbar, as well as Ricardo San Jose still locked up coming towards the half-hour mark. Blomingue has just picked up a yellow card, which is not ideal, but it is somewhat expected these days for our ball-winning midfielder. But RB Leipzig well and truly on the front foot now. Thought that might be a free kick there for RB Leipzig, but we actually take the ball away from them there, and now Zolan is on it for us around the halfway mark, albeit that past Escobar doesn't quite find him, albeit good work that time from Camilio, and he interrupts the play, and here's a chance for us to do what we should be doing with this tactic on the counter, and Vochin now in a pretty good position. Squeeze that one nicely for Pimentel, but that one comes off the post. It's a great chance for our young Colombian striker, and we really need to be taking those against the team who are top of the league. Off the back of that, we do have a corner, but unfortunately, RB Leipzig do deal with the danger, albeit good work there from Matthias Tell. We'll see if another highlight does come, or if this is just going to be a bit pointless off the back of that big chance to Pimentel, and indeed that is the case. So unfortunately, still 0-0, but to be fair, that would not be the worst result. And there's a highlight here, RB Leipzig out on the attack, a couple of minutes shy of halftime. Martin, nice ball there for Szoboszlai, the new Liverpool player. Tries to put that one bottom left corner, but thankfully that shot he drags and it goes well wide. And it looks like we might be going to halftime locked up at 0-0. Thankfully, RB Leipzig, despite all those shots, yet to get a single one on target. And our XG actually slightly higher, albeit probably helped out by the fact we've actually had some shots on target. And that Pimentel one in particular did look like the best chance of the half, with Blomier picking up a yellow will take him off. And also, both Tell and Pimentel are struggling, so Musa and Caseta can come on for those two. And as I said, Manuel for the yellow card of Blomier, as per usual. That one is becoming very, very regular, but we'll tell the guys that they're not doing too badly, that they do need to improve a little bit. We need more possession. We're disappointed so far, but to be fair, this would not be too bad of a result against an RB Leipzig team in quite good form to start this new season. 10 minutes into the second half, and so far, not much is going on. Just looking at some player ratings, and Mikel Mastis on a 6.3 is a little bit of a concern, especially with no Leroy Sané. It does mean that Danny Hermel is our backup in that position, albeit with a half hour left, two players are down to red hearts. So those are probably the two that we are going to take off. Zoran will take him off for Jordan Xerxes. He's just not quite delivering as he did when we were under that vertical tiki-taka. He was definitely our form player at the club when we were using that style. And also Horvath can come on in place of Sicker. Shortly off the back of that, a free kick to RB Leipzig, but thankfully it's not too dangerous. It loops over the post. But now down the other end, a couple of minutes later, it is a throw in our favour. We try and put that one into the mixer for Mastis. A diving clearance, which sometimes can lead to some interesting stuff for the defensive team, but unfortunately RB Leipzig do deal with that danger. Now young Horvath had a really good game the first time that he did play for us. Unfortunately, that ball gets floated into the mixer, a big deflection, and they do deal with the danger now. Only a few minutes later, again, another highlight. RB Leipzig were on the attack, but San Jose claims that one nicely. We pump that one deep, and Xerxes does get in behind now. Tight angle. Can he put this one away? It comes off the post. He can't, but it's an absolute scramble inside the box. And finally, one of our strikers has scored a goal. It's the homegrown nation's Vetko Caseta, of course, a Croatian striker, but is homegrown nation. I'm not too sure how that ended up at him, but he has put it away with his head, and we take a 1-0 lead. It's pretty unconvincing, and it's an absolute mess inside the box. The clearance there from an RB Leipzig player takes a massive deflection off Musa, falls oh so kindly to Kusida, and we take a 1-0 lead based on XG. It's actually deserved, albeit RB Leipzig have overall had the better of play, but obviously only that one shot on target is hurting them a little bit, but they will back themselves to at least grab an equaliser, and they have a chance here about to make our way inside the last 10 minutes. Now they're on the edge of the box as we somewhat deal with that danger, but they do still have it here near enough to inside of the final third. Good square there for Mendes. It's a big chance too. Thankfully, he was just offside, and also that one does come off the crossbar. With that in mind, I think it's time for us to start playing a bit more discipline. There you can see some of our other instructions with this direct counter attack. Also, we'll tell the guys to slow the pace down and regroup when possession has been lost as well. So hopefully that makes sure that we can hold on to this 1-goal advantage, because this would be a very big 3 points and a good confidence boost off the back of that defeat in the DFB Pokal. Starting to make our way now towards the last 5 minutes. It's actually a free kick here for Tunde Musa. That one nearly beats Kanade in goal, but unfortunately just a little bit too high above that top left corner. But we are still 1-0 in front, and to be fair, during the course of this game, have really started to even up the stats. Now it's time for us to start time wasting frequently, just to make sure that hopefully RB Leipzig don't get any more chances in injury time. And also while we're here, we'll get our players to be a bit more defensive in terms of their roles. We'll just sort this out before we do continue with these last couple of minutes of added time. But hopefully we can hold on here and pick up 3 points, albeit right off the back of that. Hopefully this is not a Montpellier situation again, but there is a highlight, albeit it looks like it is in our favour. That pass though from Musa, not too great, and RB Leipzig did briefly get a chance there on the counter-attack. Escobar, though, can't find Kusida up front, and now RB Leipzig might get a late chance. Thankfully, Comedio will get in the way of that one. Ryan just wins the race to that ball, but unfortunately his flick on doesn't quite find a teammate, and now Leipzig with another chance here. It is now Fratesi who is on the ball, plays that one deep, but thankfully Horvath can control that, and hopefully from here, we play things nice and safe, albeit Mastis now on the ball. Lovely one that for Xerxes, and we're in a lot of space, albeit probably taking too long to square that for a teammate. Eventually, Escobar gets on the end of that one. It was a loose touch from an RB Leipzig player, but unfortunately, the goalkeeper with a pretty easy save off the back of that on the attack again. But unfortunately, Musa with a bit of a loose touch yet again, but hopefully we can troll it down this left-hand side and can hold on and pick up all 3 points. It'll be our first win in a derby in a long time. I think since the first time we actually played them, which was, of course, in a DFB Pokal game. Great foul that from Manuel. Off the back of that, we will praise the boys. Don't mind that, even if he does pick up a yellow card. The situation of the game hopefully means we deal with this danger, and that will be all she wrote. They put that one in, they head that one well over the crossbar. Will we have time for the goal kick? No, we won't. And for the first time in a long time, we pick up a win over RB Leipzig. Overall, that game actually quite even. And of course, because we had a lot more shots on target, our XG was a lot higher. Obviously, the goal scored through Kusida was a bit fortunate, but first half as well, massive chance for Pimentel. Thankfully, RB Leipzig with all their shots, they weren't really that good of chances, and we pick up a 1-0 win, which should get us right on the verge of one of those European qualifying spots. There you can see actually still a knife because of the teams that also picked up wins, but it's quite tight now towards the top of the table. We are only 6 points off RB Leipzig, but still only 8 points clear of those teams down near the relegation zone. So at the moment, it is quite an even Bundesliga table. We start today's episode off well with that direct counter-attack. We pick up a 1-0 win over RB Leipzig in the derby. So a good start to today's episode with that direct counter-attacking style. Hopefully it works here as well as we take on Lens, a team who are just above us on the Europa League phase table. Hopefully we can pick up a result here, because otherwise we are potentially in danger of dropping outside of one of the qualifying knockout spots, which would not be ideal, albeit off the back of this game we do start to play some teams that we know we can beat, in the likes of Luzern, a team we beat a couple of times in our run to picking up the Conference League last season, but Lens are just above us on the table. They've picked up one more win than us. While we of course had that draw at the end of last week against Montpellier, they come into this one in some pretty good form as well. Around a win in the Europa League over Eintracht Frankfurt, wins in Ligue 1 over Stade Rennais and Marseille. Those two teams are pretty good, and they did draw with Montpellier, so might be pretty close in quality to that team, but are second in Ligue 1 and behind PSG, so it could actually be a bit tougher than that game that we did play at the end of it last week. But hopefully with this one being at home, we can pick up a result and keep ourselves at least in one of those first knockout round qualifying spots. It might be a case in the Europa League this season that we do start the knockout phase a little bit earlier than we did in the Conference League last season. In terms of our team going into this game, we're back to being pretty close to full strength for this one, so our entire back four has been changed. The only changes to our usual team, Baker comes in for Escobar, as you saw before. He's very injury prone on a heavy workload. Also, Pimentel not registered for this competition, so Amadori up front. Cosetta stays on the bench, and of course Mastis is still staying at right wing with that significant injury to Leroy Sané, which will probably keep him out up until the winter break. He might come back just a little bit before then, but hopefully we can back up that good win over RB Leipzig with one here, and we might have a style, even though I don't necessarily like it. It's quite a negative one for one that I usually use here on the channel, but if it works and it picks up results, I think we're going to have to stick with it off the back of what was a poor start to the season with our Gegenpress that we did sign all those players for. There are Lons in the green today. They are going with a 4-4-2. Hopefully we can deal with that and pick up a result and make sure we pick up some good points from today's episode. Probably more importantly at the moment in the Europa League, as we have struggled a little bit in that competition. To start things off, the first highlight was there potentially in our favour. Mastis there nearly actually squares that one for Amadori, but unfortunately they can't quite link up, and Lons here with a deep ball over the top. Looks like they might also be going quite direct, but that's a really poor touch from Andrew Pittman, back in the team, the former Liverpool man, and he's had almost a Karius-like moment there, and Rodriguez picks that one up and puts it away, and that is a very poor start to this one. Only 8 minutes in, it's just a poor touch, and unfortunately Peseguero Osvaldo can't quite react to that as well, and we go 1-0 down, and really that is a gift, and I'm not too sure how many goals we're going to score with this new tactic, so this is going to be a good early test for it. Hopefully we don't get battered too much, otherwise might be on the hunt for another tactic yet again, because this looks like a game between two, I would say, quite evenly matched teams, albeit based on their league of performance. Maybe these guys are a bit better than I thought. Big chance there for Zoran, but unfortunately he hits that one straight at the goalkeeper. That was a good chance there for us to get back on level terms off the back of that giveaway through Andrew Pittman. We have actually been on the front foot, but unfortunately still 1-0 behind. Now Matthias Tell on an orange injury will play things safe here and bring on Tunde Musa in his place, but that is not ideal either off the back of the start that we have had in this game. Tell is steadily improving since he is spending more time here at Lokomotive Leipzig, but yet again a highlight here, and Lons are on the attack. Thankfully this time Pittman actually does some good defensive work, albeit off the back of that on the other side we give the ball away. This time Hurtado with a good header, and Sika now starts to make his way forward down that far side. Hopefully just keeps the ball here, does play that one back for Hurtado. We start to make our way towards the opposition half. Sika down that right hand side yet again. Can he link up with someone just inside him? Tries to put that one in for Amadori, but his goal scoring touch at the moment isn't really there. Puts that one over the crossbar, and we are still at 1-0 behind Amadori. We really need to get him to start scoring goals, especially from those head situations. That has been really good for us over the past couple of seasons since we have gone up to the Bundesliga, but so far this season he is really struggling, as are our other strikers. He is still playing as a pressing forward. Maybe need to change that at some point if this poor runner form does continue, but this time Zoran does get in behind. Can he link up with a teammate? Back for Sika. Big interference there. It's hit there. I think it would have been from Zoran. Comes off the crossbar. No penalty. Must have been advantage maybe, because that was a pretty decent block put on Sika there inside the box. And unfortunately, even though based on the XG yet again we are on the front foot in this game, we are still 1-0 behind. I don't think we need to make any changes here based on player ratings. Also, of course, we did already use a substitution for bringing on Musa at halftime, albeit those would have been free ones there at the half. So maybe it would have been a good idea to use it. We'll keep this lineup out here and hopefully they can turn things around off the back of a bit of a rev up there at halftime. First highlight, and we did have the ball for quite a while there, but unfortunately now Lons are on the attack, albeit that ball is poor, and San Jose can tidy things up, plays that one out left, and Musa is going to get on the end of it a little bit luckily, but that one is from a bit long range, and unfortunately it goes well over the bar, and we are still 1-0 behind, not too long off the back of that, and Blomier does pick up a yellow card, so we'll bring on Manuel for him, and while we're here, Mastis is struggling, so I think Danny Hermel will come on in his place on the right wing, just looking at who else might be struggling. Everyone else out there at the moment is doing a decent enough job, so hopefully we can turn this around, albeit it has been quite an even game stats-wise. Now things are starting to even up in that regard, and unfortunately at the moment, that giveaway from Andrew Pittman in that first highlight is proving the difference maker. Now Zoran plays that one forward to Danny Hermel. What can he do off the bench? Musa with a big chance, a couple of those big chances one-on-one in this game, but unfortunately again we put that one straight into the path of the Lons goalkeeper. So we're actually creating the chances, but unfortunately our attackers just not really doing anything with them. The highlight does continue. Thankfully we do get that ball back, try and control it down our right hand side again. Good little bit of work there from Danny Hermel. He links up with Musa, lots of space outside him, but for some reason they don't continue to run. Does Pittman, and that shot takes a big deflection yet again, and the Lons goalkeeper can control it coming up to the hour mark, and unfortunately, despite the fact it feels like now we're starting to get on the front foot, we are still a goal behind now. Zoran's on a 6.3, we'll take him off for Jordan Xerxes and see if that can help us improve. I've just realised too, that was our last stoppage, so it does mean I've stuffed up there and not been able to make the extra substitution, but with only 20 minutes left, hopefully that does not prove too costly. But unfortunately, we are still 1-0 behind, so we're going to demand more now down the other end. It is a corner for Lons. Osvaldo will head that one away, but Rodriguez starts to make his way inside the box. We'll square that one. It sits up oh so nicely for Victor Malejo. He picks up his first goal of the season, and all those chances to equalise, unfortunately, we can't take any. And we are 2-0 down, and this is going quite badly in this one with that direct counter-attack, not quite as well as it did against RB Leipzig. That one set up oh so nicely off the back of a big deflection from that Rodriguez cross. Off the back of that, we are going to go a bit more attacking and also put some more of these players on some more positive roles, so hopefully we can get on the front foot a bit more and hopefully maybe find a way to equalise in this one. And also, maybe it's not going to be the worst idea potentially to change our tactic. We'll give it a bit more time and hopefully get on the front foot a bit more with those more attacking roles. Also, we'll berate the boys and try and get a reaction out of them. Now coming up to the last 5 minutes, it's not working. I think we'll go gegenpress and just see if that does help us out. We just make sure those corners are working like they should. Indeed they are, and also we'll just make sure also that we put those players back onto those more positive roles, but unfortunately it looks like it's going to be another defeat in the Europa League, and yet again a defeat at home as well. So far there will be 2 defeats in our home games against Nottingham Forest and now potentially against Lons. We make our way into 3 minutes of added time. Good work that time from Danny Hermel. Can he set up a good chance? Unfortunately had a couple of chances there, I felt like, to square that ball for a teammate, but unfortunately blast that one over the bar, and it is still 2-0 Lons, and I dare say that was probably our last chance to get back into this game. Dunny takes his time over that goal kick, and I think we are losing this game in the Europa League. Now Lons do get on the attack. Malejo does get in behind, picks up his second goal of the season, his second of the game. That's 3-0, and I think we need to change things yet again here at Lokomotive Leipzig. Not really a big fan of the direct counter-attacking style, and it definitely didn't work there in a game I thought we could potentially get something out of. As I said, Lons actually going quite well in League O, but still a 3-0 defeat at home. Not good enough. Our strikers and attackers did spurn some pretty good chances. Most of our good shots did go directly at the goalkeeper, but that was a very poor performance, and maybe all that tactic testing I did over the weekend hasn't really helped. It did in my RB Leipzig game, but not in that one. And now, as you can see, we are outside of that top 24, so at the moment not making our way through to the knockouts of the Europa League, which is very concerning, albeit off the back of this, our games do start to get quite a bit easier, but not a good result there at home. We lose 3-0 to Lens. So a really poor end to today's episode off the back of that win over RB Leipzig in the derby in the Bundesliga. Still actually quite well positioned in that league, despite the fact we are in 9th, not that far off being in a European qualifying spot, but in the Europa League now, as you saw before, in a little bit of early trouble, albeit our fixtures do get a bit easier off the back of that, but that was a very poor performance. Maybe need to try and switch things up yet again with that tactical style. Maybe only save up that direct counter-attack when we take on some teams who are definitely a lot better than us, because it definitely did not work against Lens off the back of doing a pretty good job against RB Leipzig. Also, as you can see, Amadori has now not scored a goal in over 16 hours. That is becoming a very big concern. He needs to pick up his game. And yeah, very up and down at the moment here at Lokomotive Leipzig, already out of the DFB Pokal and struggling in the Europa League. Thankfully, not doing too bad of a job in the Bundesliga. But that will do it for today's episode. We did beat RB Leipzig in the derby. That was good, but then got hammered by Lens in the Europa League. If you enjoyed today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and have been enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. We'll come back for the next episode. I think for the moment, we might actually focus still a little bit more on the Europa League. There's a big game coming up late in the month of November as we do take on Borussia Dortmund. Of course, we beat those guys in the Super Cup right at the start of the season with the Gegenpress. Maybe need to go back to that potentially for that game, because obviously it can work against a team like Borussia Dortmund. We'll take those guys on, hopefully get some points in the league at home, keep ourselves in that European fight, and then we take on Luzern, again a team we met quite a few times in the Conference League last season, and really that is a game that we do need to win away from home. Otherwise we could be starting to get ourselves in a bit of trouble trying to make the knockouts of our European competition for this season. So we'll come back at the end of November and hopefully improve against both Dortmund and Luzern. So until then, thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.
Thought I could do this, laugh through the sadness. Don't know